Welcome to the Homefront Podcast, hosted by me, Becca Bookman. The Homefront Podcast aims to introduce you to the people, initiatives, and ideas shaping Israel from within. Yom Ha'Atzmaut is one of my favorite days of the year. It's a time full of parties, music, and great vibes. But this year is different. We are at war. We are mourning many losses. And we are still waiting for our hostages to come home. How do we even begin to talk about celebrating? And if we do gather, music is so central to those celebrations. So I'm curious, what's happening in Israel's music scene right now? On today's episode, I'm joined by DJ Miri Petel, a Jerusalem performer who also empowers women to enter her industry. We're going to talk about music, about celebrations, and about Independence Day, all during wartime. I've been a fan for a long time, so it's my pleasure to say, welcome to the show, DJ Miri Petel.
Yay! Good morning. I'm also really happy. Thank you.
So tell me, how is your Zionism doing today?
My Zionism is very inherent, something that is, without a doubt, something that lives. So it's just calmly there, not actively out, but it's calmly inside.
When I think of a DJ, I think of happiness and joy and fun. And the war has been a very different set of emotions. So tell me a little bit about what it's been like to be a DJ during wartime.
So I'll start with that we were all shocked. It doesn't matter what our profession was. And it took some time, even a lot of time, to kind of understand what's going on. Many people that their weddings or parties or different simchas were supposed to be really in October, November, they just postponed because no one knew what was going to happen. But then people came back to doing their weddings, the first thing. And their weddings were much more sensitive to the situation. No one knew how many guests were coming because tons of men were in miluim and women. And they didn't know exactly what to do with the music. But for many people, music in weddings is a symbol of strength and not a symbol of denial. For other people, it is a symbol of denial. And they felt like, what are we going to do? How do we get married when there are hostages and people dying all around us? And I really understand that. But the Jewish people have a different kind of sense of livelihood that comes out of building new houses. So the weddings happened, and they happened beautifully. And they many couples asked for songs that are relevant but the happier songs. They came out tons of songs and like medleys of strengthening songs for soldiers and for all of us.
There's a lot to unpack in these days. I want to ask you your personal journey as a DJ. It's very easy to talk about the simchas and the celebrations and the people involved in those. But what has your journey during wartime been like?
Wow. It's really interesting. You would stop anyone in the street and everyone has their take. Each person has their take about how they're doing and what's going on. I wanted to say one thing, that I did a big party in Purim, a different production for about 1,000 women in Psagot, which is in right next to Jerusalem. So we put big posters, one of all the names of the wounded, the women and men and soldiers, and a big prayer for the hostages, and whatever a woman wants to take on herself to just bring more love to Israel, bring more power. And I think it meant a lot to the women there that they saw that we're all in one situation, that we understand that's not a regular party, and we're not partying just to party, and it's much bigger. You were asking about my experience. I live in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is safe because of its holy sites. I have a sister in Nachal Oz that got that their kibbutz is one of the 4 kibbutzim that got really, really, really injured, but they had 3 big miracles. So that's in my family. So that's a lot of my experience. Basically, I do little steps, really baby steps. I'm not a big newsie. I don't go in. I just know that it's a lot of poison that can come in, and it's really hard information. So I just do my best of being a mother of two and being a wife of Miluim, which was 70, 80 days. My mom is American. She's very upset about what's going on in the States, but it's beyond my perception to hold the hatred and the anti-Semitism and the campuses. And I just really concentrate of my everyday life, trying to make my house a secure place for me and my kids and my husband.
And how does DJing fit into all of that? I can imagine there was probably some type of journey you had to go on from what happened at the first act of war until where you are today,
Right.
and DJing and music was likely a part of that.
I understand that because I'm 10 years already in being a DJ in the world of music, I can enjoy music in many ways. We all enjoy music. Music is really part of tons of moments of our lives, the harder ones and the simpler ones and the everyday ones. So for me as a DJ, it's like a question. Wow, interesting. It's something that I do. It became not because of the war. I think the war just gave it a little bit like COVID. It just kind of stopped everything and asked, okay, so who am I? Am I the DJ? No, I'm just a person. I'm a person. I'm a mother. I'm a woman. In the third circle, I'm a DJ. That's my profession. But it made me look up things like that are really, really, really important and things that are nice to have, that they're fun. I'm sh all the musicians that, brought out music, that, produced music during these 6 months and even before, they've done amazing jobs to help people digest and process. But, I'm not the music. I'm
There
the amplifier.
there's a lot of what you just mentioned that I wanna get to in this episode, but just before we move on to those things, while we talk about the journey of being a DJ in wartime, I'd be curious to know if the Nova Festival, what happened there, how did that impact you, and how do you see that impacting your industry?
I could say that it was a big shock. I'm not from that kind of production world because I am in the more religious, scene. We do things that are, a bit lower scale. So I'm kind of in a different industry. But just to feel that people in the most open and loving position of dancing were massacred, that was like, what the hell? How are we ever gonna build trust? Because this place of dance and music is something that a person really needs to move aside his and hers everyday life to go and dance. And it's already hard to move. So that was the big thing. And also because of that, we didn't do the big party in Purim because we felt like we couldn't take responsibility for so many lives. You look at it differently.
That's a lot of responsibility to have to think about just to wanna get together and dance.
Exactly. So it made me think of smaller things. I would do really smaller things. And really the party that I did that I was a part of, but I wasn't the production, they made it smaller so it could be a number that they can take care of if something happens. And it was really overlooked and Baruch Hashem.
You said that there was a question of how do we trust again in these settings? Are you seeing that trust being rebuilt?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I don't see other festivals, but I do see also the Nova community and people that are used to going on weekends and dancing and consuming and all that. They do it. They just do it in just smaller scales and more intimate groups, but they do it in places that aren't on the border. And it happens, sure, because people need to have a place to escape, a place to digest, a place to dance, a place to move, to shift energies. It's very dachus, stuffed. It's a very stuffed energy. War is a very stuffed energy to be in, and you need to have your elements of how to reshape it so you don't get stuck and depressed and whatever.
We're known as a party country, And right now we're facing a question of how do we party? And when we spoke prior to this conversation, you made it very clear that you are still going out and you're still doing gatherings and weddings. So tell us
Mhm.
about that.
There is a much larger scene in the secular world than in the religious world. I think in the religious world, they're still very cautious and they're more dependent on smachot, things that are mamash a mitzvah, that you have to do it, that you don't postpone a wedding, that it's a bat mitzvah and everything. They don't do kind of just parties for having parties. But I did DJ a party, a 50-year-old woman that had a birthday, and her husband brought me to DJ her birthday, and it was just amazing to see that people need it. It's reviving. And in Tel Aviv, things are happening big time because people need it. They need to escape. And I would say that after like the first month and a half, I would say like mid-November, December, Tel Aviv, things happened again. Lat lat, slowly, slowly. They needed to find the surface again. But friends of mine that are DJs in Tel Aviv, they work. They work. And they go to protest on Motzei Shabbat. They do this, they do both.
When your friends are going to DJ in Tel Aviv or you're going and working a bat mitzvah or a wedding, are the conversations right now in the preparation stages or at the celebrations themselves, are the conversations different with the hosts and the guests?
Just a little bit. I would say like 10%. Everyone knows that it's a one-time thing, their wedding, and that they're at wartime and they still did the event now. So they think about how to incorporate it in the chuppah or in a different way. It doesn't have to come only through the music. And it's a little easier when it doesn't come through the music because sometimes through words, through notes that they can put to people on the table, it makes a whole event that the event was thoughtful and it wasn't just a splurge of happiness and, you know.
As somebody who's working a lot of these events, how important is it that people take that time to be sensitive to what's going on around them?
I think they can't. They can't do it in a different way. Everyone is so into it in some way or another. We're all in circles, know people that died, know people that are wounded, did miluim, husband did miluim, brother did miluim. Everyone's in it. So it's like inevitable. Everyone thinks about it because it's not a regular thing to get married during a war. Just like it wasn't a regular thing to get married during COVID. And things really, and people needed to really think what they're doing. So it's the same thing here. Just here, it's Israel is they have so much. We as a Jewish people, we have baggage of mourning and baggage of and touching sorrow. So it's already embedded with breaking the glass. Everything is embedded, the sorrow and the happiness and remembering each other. And even when there are happy times, we still need to break the glass. So it's crazy that we have this wisdom that's inside the ceremony already that helps us channel to what's happening now, and not only when the second temple was destroyed.
My heartstrings are constantly being pulled because my husband and I, we postponed throughout Corona our wedding, and then we got married during the last operation. I think it was a day or two before we signed what was the last ceasefire. And I can only imagine how much more difficult it is to have a wedding now during this war and the heaviness.
They didn't know. The people don't know. They have only what's on their plate, and they're doing their best. Some people really postponed their wedding. I have a cousin that just got married at their base with 10 people, and it was amazing for them because they just did it and they concentrated on what's important. And that's really amazing. I know when the war will end, and just as COVID ended, the weddings came back to 500 and 800 people. But that's beside the point. The point is that life is still and will always be stronger than energy of death. And you need to be part of that as well to give place to the energy of death. But I think that my friend told me a few days ago, it's like all the holidays are different this year. We're in a mourning year. It's like when your sibling dies or when your parent dies, you have a mourning year. So everything is low key. Everything is different. It happens, but it's like in a different way. And I really respect that we can feel it in our bones that it's different.
You particularly can speak to that difference because you've been doing this for over a decade, DJing and performing. So, what have been the most surprising experiences or lessons you've learned about performing during wartime?
Humbleness, just a lot of humbleness. And to feel that we're all in this together.
There's a real power in coming together.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Many people have music as an instrument of them to come together with people. It's so different to dance in your kitchen than to dance with 500 more people or 300 more people when there is a really clear center of happiness, of building a house. For a party as a party, it's more individual, but it still has tons of impact because you're with other people in the same situation, although you don't really interact sometimes. You come with your friend and you only interact with those. Yeah. It's a big thing. It gives a big gift to the person and then to all of his circles around him because the person is like enlightened and empowered.
This is why I don't believe that calling you a DJ encapsulates everything that you're doing, because we know that healing has so much to do with community and coming together and movement.
Yeah.
So how do you see your role in terms of helping the people of Israel heal during this time?
Wow, that's a really big question. I don't see myself as like a person with a role because I told you before that I really experience myself as just a simple woman that wants to live her life fully and in a relaxed way. I do have friends that have roles for them too. So maybe I'm kind of an anti-hero for what you're asking. But I do feel that in the small things that I do, I have an impact on these people in their very special day, that they'll remember this forever. That at their wedding, there was a time that 300 people came together, and it was through music and through their happiness that they were together, even though they can be on the different side of politics and of the map. They can still come together because the simcha is overall.
You're talking about the couples, but I think you're also providing healing to all the guests and everybody at a party.
Right. Yeah, I totally understand. But I kind of try not to think about it because then it becomes too cautious, too conscious, sorry. The thing is just to be a vessel. It's really not about me. It's really about us.
We're talking a lot about weddings, and I know that's your specialty. I also know that you're part of a community and you're a teacher of people who are performing at other events during the war. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
We're talking about a community, about 150 women all over the country that DJ. And mostly are religious, but some are religious and DJ secular events. Some do only religious events. And in the beginning of the war, they needed DJs, especially for soldiers, for places that they gathered soldiers and they wanted to like boost their energy. So many of my students went to do that. Schools, places where people were evacuated from their house and they were at hotels. They came to do events there. And also for the women that their husbands were in Miluim. And I think I already said that, but never mind. And in the beginning, everything was also in volunteer, and you can't maintain that for long. So it was really important that in some stage after like 2 or 3 months, it would shift to paying, and it would be a paid job because we talk about that women are usually not paid as well as men. In the DJ world, they are, but at wartime, they're not. No one is, but now everyone is usually paid for, although there are still tons of people evacuated from their houses and many people that would need parties. But in the beginning, my sister from Nachal Oz, that she's outside of their house, they're living up north now. They had a party or an event or a TV show or like a TV show coming. They had an event every day and it was just too much. And it wasn't what the people really needed. So we also understood that it needs to be something that happens once every few weeks. It's not something that needs to happen every day, especially not for a traumatized community.
There was a really big push at the beginning of the war when people were displaced to come and try to bring cheer and joy at a time when people were really in the raw pain of the trauma itself.
Now everything is a bit more shigra.
It's more routine.
Yeah, it's part of our routine now. So things are a little different. I hope people go back to their houses and we'll do parties at their houses.
That would be beautiful.
Yeah, because I don't think that's what they need now. They need basically to have their life back. So the music can sometimes be some kind of a diversion. It's not really what they need. And I respect that. I don't think that I can come and like give it if someone doesn't need it.
I can't imagine 10 years ago when you started that this was something that you thought as a DJ you'd have to be thinking about.
Well, when I started, I studied dance. I have my BA is in dance. And I remember before I said, okay, I would go for education or therapy. So I think it was embedded. And then that's the way I look at things, that in the end, I'm dealing with people and I'm not just feeding them with music. I really need to see where they are. And a good party is when I really can take them from one place to another and really open them to full trust. And that's what I said about the trust before, that it's just so painful that in the moment that they were so open and trusting of the world and they got slaughtered, it's just unbearable.
Have your students or colleagues been calling you to have conversations about how do we approach being a DJ today?
We talk about it a lot. We have a WhatsApp group. We talk about it a lot. And we're all very sensitive. We're women. And we're very sensitive. And the families are very sensitive. And the people arranging parties are very sensitive. Also, when I did that 50-year-old party, we really chose the music. It was amazing. But you really see that the people, all of us, have the side of we're at war, we're heavy, and the other side that just remembers that there's life, that there's movement and joy, and you can, and then it's so easy. You just put the right song and people can just tap into that. It's so easy for them because that's what they know. Living in a war for so long, it's something that we don't know. We haven't had it for many, many years. We have such a long war.
Let's discuss what's happening in the Israel music scene because there's a lot going on.
So I'm just saying this as an amateur. I'm not a musician. I'm just a music lover. And there's probably tons of music I don't even know of that came out. That's just because so much creativity came out of disaster. Many songs that were regular songs of the sadder songs of Israel, like that were in Memorial Day, and that they just got renewed, or they got this new life to them. And there are many songs, I can think of like 5 songs or 10 songs, and I'm sure there are more, that got new versions. So there's a song, Ve'ech Shelo, Shel Ariel Zilber, which is a love song, but it can also be a song that every time you speak about a woman, you can also speak about the country, because in Hebrew it's the same, it's feminine. And so it's Ariel Zilber, and then Omer Adam made a new version of it. Or there was a soldier called Shauli Gringlik that went to a reality show for the Eurovision, and he sang a song, a Hanan Ben Ari song that's called Atalef Hiver, and then he died at in Gaza. So that's a song that really took off, and also songs that were just made before the war and just gotten so much more relevant, like יהיה טוב של יסמין מועלם, לצאת מהדיכאון, which was also a trend for Instagram.
I want to talk about that song. In English, it translates to Get Out of the Depression.
Yeah.
And it came out in August.
Right.
I think it peaked around 26 or something at the time during its original run. And then suddenly, I think it was the first week of the war, the second week of the war, I think it got to number 2, maybe even number 1 on the charts. It got very, very popular.
Yeah.
Why?
Trends happen. I have no idea who sets them and why they take off. I'm just a simple person as you in that way. But because of the sentence, גם בשעות החשוכות של הלילה,
which means?
Even in the darkest hour of the night, there will always be a star that will lead you the way home. And then it became the trend to show the father or the soldier coming to the house. and seeing his families by surprise. And they put the song.
Lots of social media posts with that.
Yes, lots. And after you couldn't hear that song anymore, then came other songs. There were many songs that were published around the Nova. All these people that understood that something really bad happened and because it was a music festival. But it was, for some people, it was too soon. It's like, how can you even think about making a song now? But for other people, that's their therapy. And also songs that came out of words of soldiers. There's a song called Michtav Mi Yossi that Shlomi Shabbat sings it, but it's in the memory of Yossi Hershkovitz that died. Or the sister of Shauli Gringlik from the reality show, that she's also a singer, and she brought out songs. Or Bnei Abarabi that took another song for the Nova. Or Alon Shimris that is from Kibbutz Kfar Aza. He was one of the captivated and was by accident killed by our forces. Words of his writings that were found took a song writer and composer called Yogev Zusman. It's just, you can't believe that he wrote these words. And also Nunu, that's a pop singer that usually does things that are like a little humorous and stuff. Then she knew a family that they had many years till their baby came, and they just had like a 1-year-old baby and their father died. So she wrote a song called Ababo. And just tons of, that's like the sadder songs. There are also the really happier songs, the Am Yisrael Chai Al Golan song and Eden Chasson, Machrozet Milchama, like a medley for the war. And Am Yisrael Chai and all the Leakot Tzvayot, Vayeshivot, the yeshivas that took out the music, and that I put in dances. I put that because if we're uplifting, then we're uplifting to the place of, but unity, not, I'm trying to say a place of unity, but not only a way of like, haha, we're together, or that we have an enemy. It's like, no, we have some core that we need to connect to, because the diversity in our nation that's embedded, that's been in our nation since forever. Now it looks like Saturday nights in Tel Aviv, but it always looked like, even back in the Gemara and back in the Bible and back in Yetziat Mitzrayim, it's always part of our nation. So it's really that to feel that we have some base to come back to.
What do you think is motivating the people who are creating music?
That I'm really sure that whoever creates the music really aims well, and really aims in a way that will or give people some relief, or will give them awakening. So I'm sure that that's like the two roads that people that create music now want to take: the relieving or the empower for change.
I also want to get your thoughts on our Eurovision song this year, Hurricane by Eden Golan. There was a lot of drama behind that song getting it into Eurovision this year. What's your take on the song and on Eurovision this year?
I heard some voices are like, we shouldn't have gone this year. Like, who cares? Who cares about the Eurovision? But it's another part of being activists. I know my husband like never sees the Eurovision, but I like it. It's interesting for me. I think it's like it's a fun event, and I think they made a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful job. They did a really good song, and deep and not populist. Like, in my feeling, it wasn't just taking drums and taking a little Mediterranean feel, and it's just a good song. It's a really good song. I hope it'll, even if it doesn't do anything, we know that we did a good job.
I think it's done a lot here already to give a voice to the pain that we're feeling.
Yeah. And even who made the song, Keren Peles is one of them, who wrote the song. And she's very much she's from the secular world. She has a certain observation of what's going on, about politics, about everything. But still, they managed to make something that I think that most people can stand behind, which is very rare for Israel, to stand behind something as a people.
When we're thinking about the type of songs that are coming out right now, What are the trends that you're seeing?
I see a lot of dedication to lyrics, that it's much more important than all the rest. So in the past few years, you can make a song, a whole like pismon,
And of course,
the chorus. The whole chorus would be like no words at all. It would just be lyrics because it's like very meant for dancing or whatever. And now the lyrics are at front. I also see a friend of mine from the DJ group. She sent me a song that went to 3 stages. It's called the song that's called Shuvi Elai, Come Back to Us. It's about a couple that the man wants the woman to come back and everything. And with the hostages, everything that's with come back and home became just much more relevant and burning. Also the programs, the few things that they did with Ninette in the National Library, that she did a song, and the whole orchestra that sings Habaita, Habaita. It's just crazy, 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 crazy in its power. So I'm saying that Shuvi Elai is a song of Avishai Cohen, who is a jazz artist, a well-known jazz artist. And another people took the jazz, took the lyrics, and then made it into something much more hip-hoppy and rap, which is much more protest. So so they made it into a protest genre, and they put in more words about how everything is the same, but it's not the same because these people aren't with us. And it's called Shuvu Elenu. All of you come back, not only the woman to come back. And there's another version of it, of a person, Gadassi, his last name is Shir David Gadassi, that is like just much more personal and like only acoustic. And it's just amazing how the music is just such a sense of the music is a form for all of us, but for some people more, to say things that they can't say with words just in a conversation or whatever. Then they take out a song, or they make an alternative text, and it's amazing.
there was one song that was very important to me and my husband during the war. During his last time in Gaza, we both were thinking about the song From Hatikva Shash, Lichzor Habayita, to return home. And that's a song that came out, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago that song came out.
Yeah.
And then that also had a resurgence from what I know.
Tons of songs had that resurgence, as you say. I was like Renaissance resurgence. Yeah. Tons of songs. Many with the words Lashuv and
return
Habayit and
home.
Habayita. Yeah. There's a song by Marina Mixolydian Blumin, My Heart is at Home. Lev Sheli Babayit. And it's not a simple song. It talks about the complexity about not having another country and bearing all the prices that you need to pay for living here, which are unbearable, these prices. But it also had this like...
Had this moment again.
Yeah. Many songs had their moments again. There's also a song, a children's song called Tulik. And it talks about a beautiful boy with blue eyes, that his eyes are like 2 stars, but it became a sad song about kids or young adults that lost their lives.
One of the powerful things I've seen in music, especially most recently, is that as soldiers are getting released from their reserve duty, they're coming out with their own music about their experience in Gaza, which those of us who were not in the army, we don't have those experiences. So I almost feel like music is providing a bridge for a conversation between who was civilian and who was a soldier.
Yeah, definitely. And there will always be a huge gap. Always. You can't really understand. It's a whole different world, but I do really appreciate their approach and their need, like their effort. I really admire their effort to put it into words, into music, and to people doing other things outside of music, to do like 3 days in nature for soldiers that they finish their reserve service and it's really hard for them to get back to life. So things are happening in all areas. We're talking now about music, but things are happening in all of the areas.
Absolutely. This whole process of healing it intersects every sector of life here in Israel.
Yeah. And we're not only talking about healing, we're talking about processing and being together in a big trauma and a big thing that we've never experienced, not our generation.
And that's probably a good way of getting into this conversation of Independence Day, Yom Ha'Atzmaut. It's coming up, and there's a really big question of how do we even think about celebrating independence while we are in such trauma?
Yeah, people are different. They'll have to celebrate in a very different way. Some will do the traditional because they can't help themselves. That's the way they do it. And they're just thankful for having a country, that we're alive, just acknowledging that.
And for those who don't know, maybe, what would you describe as the traditional?
The traditional is tons of events during the night, overnight. It's one of the nights, 5 nights in the year that you can do parties all night and you can't call the police for DJs.
My family always talks about this because it's an unknown rule, but it's very much the rule of the day.
It's the rule. And there are fireworks, and there's a big ceremony at Har Herzl, which is a place where carries also the side of all the soldiers being buried there, but also the present of having this country, and songs and bonfires and barbecues the next day. Just a chill day with friends and family. There's also the Bible contest. There are tons of things that go on in this day. And there's the Air Force that does these like air show. Everything's very, very festive and very official and very exciting. And our kids are like with the flags, and everyone's with the flags in the car. And this year, it's just like I said, it's a mourning year. It's just low key. Some people won't be able to do the transfer between Yom HaZikaron, the Memorial Day, that's a day before. And as always, tons of people can't do. It's just unbearable.
I think for people who maybe aren't aware, what's important to know is that Memorial Day is a day right before Independence Day here in Israel.
It feeds into the Independence Day.
So we mark the sacrifice that so many gave to our country, and then in a split second later, we go to partying. And this year in particular, that's going to be a challenge.
It is. And I feel like it's really, just make space. Something needs to be different. I really want to give all of us a chance to think how we can celebrate in a way that's more sensitive to the families that lost this year. But each family that loses forever. They lose their child or their parent or their sibling forever. And I have neighbors that are they have family members that died from terror attacks. And we always know that we need to be sensitive in Yom Ha'Atzmaut, the Independence Day. And now it's just like that. It's just being sensitive. It's not like we need to cancel anything, but we need to think how we do it in a more sensitive way.
And from the celebrations or the gatherings that you've been doing, what are those lessons?
So there was a women's party that really wanted me to join, that they had a Hallel prayer. That is something that the religious Zionists do. And then after that to do a party, and they understood that they needed to shift it to a different direction, that it's still not the timing. Purim was the timing because it's Purim, but it's really like the only time of the year that you can push everything aside. And also tons of people didn't go out in Purim and thought it wasn't relevant at all. It was
a quieter year in some places.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And it's a good thing to celebrate quietly is also a good thing. It doesn't like take off the power of us. We know we're just sad. We're mourning. I'm just saying that parties and music is there are whole times in the Jewish calendar that we don't listen to music as an act of mourning, in Sfirat HaOmer and in Ben HaMetzarim. So it's just understanding that we have it in our DNA. And just like, okay, these are the times that we do it a bit lower key, because this is a modern age, a modern time that it's
not appropriate.
Yeah, it's just not appropriate.
Let's say for someone like me who goes really hard on Yom Ha'Atzmaut, I'm out late, I'm up early, I'm trying to soak in every single moment on a typical year. This year, I don't know what tone downs mean, because to me, it's either nothing or a lot. I'm not good at finding the middle ground. So for people like me, what does tone down look like, let's say?
You need to ask yourself what makes you feel festive about the celebration of our country. If it's being with friends, if it's being with family, um, if it's going to the kotel, to the wall, I don't know. It's really individual. It's beautiful that there isn't one option. There's never been one option. So
Also this year.
yeah.
For one piece of advice for people who are thinking about how do I mark Yom Ha'Atzmaut this year?
Maybe I would say how to mark each happy event that I have this year is to hold in one pocket that this is an amazing day and a very powerful day and a day that I want to put in a lot of good content inside and a lot of meaningful moments. And on the other pocket, just like to know that there's Anochi Afar Vefer. Things are fragile. Everything is fragile. So to have in one pocket that there's a really meaningful day and a beautiful day and a happy day and that we're together and that we're so full of gratitude for being here together. And in the second pocket, to know that things are fragile. There are people that are very, very vulnerable now, and also parts of us are vulnerable, and we just need to take that in account.
As we get to the end of our conversation, I want to know what is bringing you hope today?
Relationships with people, with good friends of mine, with our community where we live. When we work out things, it gives me hope. When I see my kids, when I see that they're growing, I'm seeing, okay, again, the energy of life is stronger than the energy of death. That gives me hope. And to see the circles of influence I have. Each person has a circle of influence. There are things that we really can influence. I can't really influence big things, but I can influence a million little things. And the community that we built also influences a million small things. So that gives me a lot of hope.
Thank you to DJ Miri Petel for joining us, and thank you to Nomi Studios for hosting us. Thank you to all of you for listening, and make sure to follow on social media for more updates from the Homefront podcast. We wish you and your loved ones a very safe and meaningful Yom Ha'Atzmaut, and we'll see you in the next episode.